morning and a very warm welcome. You are watching JanataTelevision and this is the English Bulletin with me, Anustha, Acharya. The top stories first. Local election to be held in 753 local units tomorrow. 390 candidates elected unopposed so far. Government tells schools to shut down on Saturday and Sunday. The decision will be implemented from May 14. Inflation rising in the country, balance of payments remains in deficit. Sri Lanka President to appoint new Prime Minister this week. The President promises to bring constitutional reforms. And De Bruyne scores 4 goals for Manchester City. The league leaders inch closer to title after restoring 3 points lead. And now the news in detail. The local level election is being held in all 753 local units across the country on May 13 Friday. The local election will be held in one phase in all the local units tomorrow. The local poll will elect a total of 35,221 people's representatives, including the mayor, deputy mayor, ward chair, ward member and women's and Dalit categories and 2 ward members in open category. The election will be held in 6 metropolitan cities, 11 sub-metropolis, 276 municipalities and 460 rural municipalities of 753 local units. Altogether, 145,011 candidates, including 55,698 female candidates and 89,355 male candidates, will be contesting the election. So far, 355 candidates backed by the political parties and 35 independent candidates have been elected. A total of 65 political parties have been registered for the local election this time. Similarly, 17.73 million voters are eligible to vote in this election. The government has mobilized 260,000 security personnel in 10,756 polling stations and 21,955 polling centers to ensure that the election is held in a free and fair manner. Voters enlisted in the voters list for the local level election on May 13 will be able to cast their votes on the basis of voters' identity card or any other original government document. The Election Commission yesterday decided to allow voters to vote during tomorrow's local election with the help of any official's identity card, including citizenship certificate, passport, national identity card, or a land ownership certificate. However, it is mandatory to be included in the voter list to cast vote. The government has directed concerned bodies to close schools on Saturdays and Sundays. The Education and Human Resource Development Center of the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology has decided its subordinate bodies to ensure closure of schools for 2 days a week after the government's decision to provide 2 days holidays was published in the Nepal Gazette. The center has directed the concerned bodies to implement the decision to grant public holiday on Saturday and Sunday with effect from May 14. The center has sent letters to the Education Development and Coordinator Unit across the country in this regard. Now, the schools have to conduct classes on Fridays and usual from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is Janata Bulletin. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. After the break, we continue with other national news. The government yesterday confirmed 15 new cases of COVID-19 across the country. According to the Ministry of Health and Population, the number of active cases of COVID-19 has dropped to 400 after 456 people recovered from the disease. So far, a total of 978,960 people have tested positive for the virus in Nepal, while 966,730 people have already recovered. No new death from the virus was reported yesterday. The death toll from the virus remains constant at 11,951. Nepal is currently among top 64 countries affected by coronavirus. USA tops the list with 83.77 million cases, followed by India with 43.11 confirmed cases. The virus has infected more than 518.34 million people worldwide and has claimed over 6.28 million lives. The Election Commission has been conducting voter education and distributing voter identity cards for tomorrow's election. The Election Commission has started distributing voters' ID cards to those who have applied for voters' education and new identity cards for the local level election across the country. The Commission has been conducting voter education and distributing voter identity card from various polling stations and polling booths across the country since yesterday. This will continue today as well. The Commission has stated that it is going to educate the voters so that the vote cast for the local level election on May 13 will not be spoiled. The new generation has come to most of the polling stations to get voter education, said Bhagwan Upreti, polling officer at polling station in New Baneshwar. Upreti said that voter identity cards are being distributed from 10 a.m. and necessary preparations are being made for May 13. Polling officer Upreti said voters were taught to cast votes on sample ballot paper. And now the news from economic front. Inflation and balance of payments deficit have increased in the first 9 months of the current fiscal year, a report. Current macroeconomics and financial situation report by Nepal Rashtra Bank on Wednesday, the consumer price inflation of the country remained 7.28% between mid-March to mid-April against 6.14% in the corresponding month of the previous fiscal year. Likewise, the balance of payments stood at a deficit of Rs 268.26 billion during the review period. The total foreign exchange reserves declined by 16.5% to Rs 1,167.92 billion in mid-April 2022. Out of the total foreign exchange reserves, the reserves of Nepal Rashtra Bank decreased by 17.9% and that of other banks and financial institutions by 5.1%. Total merchandise exports increased by 69.4%, including exports to India and other countries increased by 86.9% and 25.5% respectively. However, exports to China declined by 21.8%. Similarly, total merchandise imports increased by 32.0% during the review period. Such imports had increased by 13.1% in the corresponding period of the previous fiscal year. Imports from India, China, and other countries increased by 24.4%, 28.6%, and 59.2% respectively. Time for a short break here at Janata Bulletin. Stay tuned for international news. Welcome back. Now the international news. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has said that he would appoint a new Prime Minister and cabinet this week after his elder brother and former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa resigned following deadly violence in the country. The new Prime Minister and cabinet will command a majority in the 225-seat parliament, Rajapaksa said, adding that he will bring constitutional reforms to grant more power to the parliament. The move followed comments earlier in the day from Sri Lanka's central bank governor, who said he would quit within weeks unless political stability was restored. P. Nandalal appointed central bank chief last month to help the island nation of 22 million people find a way out of its worst economic crisis in history, said a stable government was essential to stop the turmoil. At least 7 soldiers have been killed and 2 others are missing in Nigeria after they were ambushed by attackers while on patrol in the northeast state of Taraba, two military sources said. The incident took place on Tuesday night when troops from the 93 Battalion came under heavy fire in the village of Tati in the Takum local government area of the state. A brigadier general and his aside were missing after the attack, the sources said on Wednesday. There was no claim of responsibility for the attack. An army spokesman did not immediately respond to calls for a comment. Last month, Tarawa suffered 2 separate bombings that were claimed by Islamic State West Africa province and killed at least 3 people and injured more than 30. For more than 10 years, Nigeria has grappled with various armed groups unleashing terror targeted at communities and security forces in northern parts of the country. You are watching Janata Bulletin, and now the latest from the world of sports. Kevin De Bruyne's stunning 4 goals haul helped Manchester City thump Wolves and restore their 3 points lead at the top of the Premier League table. Pep Guardiola's side now 3. Jamie Vardy scored twice as Leicester condemned relegated Norwich to a 5th consecutive Premier League defeat. Vardy's double ensured the Foxes ended their own 7-game winless run in all competitions and sees them move up in 10th in the table. It was no more than Brendan Rodgers' side deserved as they dominated second for the 35-year-old who timed his run to perfection before firing into the top left corner. As Leicester moved through the tiers, James Maddison blasted an effort into the roof of the net against his former employers, with Con unfortunate to see the ball into his path after failing to collect Kiernan Dewsbury Hall's crush. Dean Smith's side offered plenty of resistance, however, once they fell behind, they wilted and have now conceded 78 goals this term, their worst defensive performance in the top flight season. We are at the end of Janata Bulletin and the headlines once again. Local election to be held in 753 local units tomorrow, 390 candidates elected unopposed so far. Government tells schools to shut down on Saturday and Sunday. The decision will be implemented from May 14. Inflation rising in the country, balance of payments remains in deficit. Sri Lanka President appoints new Prime Minister this week. The President promises to bring constitutional reforms. And De Bruyne scores 4 goals for Manchester City. The league leaders inch closer to title after restoring 3 points lead. And that's all from the English News Desk for today. You can follow Janata Television and our programs on various social media platforms, including on our website janatasamajah.com. Keep watching Janata Television. Namaste.